Welcome back to the Nintendo Wiretap. My name is Amiibo Jason, and on today's episode we're talking about what could possibly be the Super NES finally coming to the Nintendo Switch. So without further ado, let's take a look. Okay, I'm going to be just totally transparent here and say that Nintendo Switch Online, at least for me, has been kind of a big disappointment. I mean, the NES games are great, don't get me wrong, but there's just something about the service that hasn't really resonated with me, and I'm sure a lot of you too. Online services really haven't been all that great. Super Mario Maker 2 can sometimes be completely unplayable depending on who you're connecting to, and it's really the NES games that are kind of the entire appeal of the service, at least for me. It's a relatively cheap service, and you get a lot of really cool Nintendo games, and they seem to be adding to every single month. But we're getting to this point now where the games that are being released are kind of lackluster, especially this last round of games, but it looks like Nintendo might be finally answering the prayers of Nintendo fans everywhere, and finally bringing Super Nintendo games to Nintendo Switch Online, or maybe even in some other capacity. So here's what we know so far. You might remember last year Nintendo released these really cool wireless NES gamepads for the Nintendo Switch. They felt just like the original NES controllers, they looked the same, the only thing was they were Bluetooth and you could charge them by connecting them to your Switch in one of the most ridiculous ways ever. So, what do we find today? Well, it looks like Nintendo has registered a new trademark with the FCC, which looks suspiciously like a Super Nintendo controller from behind. I mean, I grew up with the Super Nintendo, so I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, this is a Super Nintendo controller. There's no way it's anything else. So, what does this mean? Well, it appears that if this controller is being submitted to the FCC, that we're guessing that we're going to see some Super Nintendo games come to Nintendo Switch Online sooner rather than later. Now, my guess is that these controllers are going to be sold the same way that we saw the NES controllers sold, which is essentially only for members of Nintendo Switch Online. Now, at this point, we have no release date for when this is supposed to be coming out, but usually when the FCC filings start coming out, it's a good indication that this is going to happen pretty quick. So here's hoping Nintendo makes an announcement pretty soon. Now, one other thing I want to talk about before we end this video is that all the way back in January, there was a data mine of Nintendo Switch Online that happened, which essentially found 22 games buried in the code of Nintendo Switch Online. Now, all 22 of these games were Super Nintendo games, and I'm going to go through the list super fast. They were Breath of Fire 2, Contra 3, Demon's Quest, F-Zero, Kirby's Dream Course, Kirby's Dream Land 3, Kirby Superstar, The Legend of the Mythical Ninja, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Pilot Wings, Poppin' Twinbee, Star Fox, Star Fox 2, Stunt Racer FX, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Mario All-Stars, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, Super Metroid, Super Punch-Out, and Super Soccer. Now, all of these were data mined, like I said, all the way back in January, but if this FCC filing is legit, which of course it looks like it is, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the initial lineup that we're going to see for the service. But like I said before, no official confirmation from Nintendo at this point, and we're really just basing this off of the data mine that we had back in January and the FCC filing. But what do you guys think about this? Do you think that we might actually see Super Nintendo games coming to the Switch in the next couple months? Let me know your thoughts on what games you'd like to see, and really what you'd like to see from Nintendo Switch Online in the future. And that's going to wrap up today's Nintendo Wiretap. I'll see you soon with yet another episode, but as always, until then, stay wired in. Bye, guys.
Wow.